Welcome, fellow castigators. Thanks to a strange cultural moment, I went out to see Barbie and Oppenheimer consecutively. It's nice to see the market full of choices rather than just a variety of Disney movies.
Leave now and never come back. Leave now and never come back.
Regardless, not all of these choices will be rewarding. With that in mind, let's begin with Barbie, written by Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach, with direction from Gerwig. Now, unless you count removing limbs, aggressively closing heads in the Dreamhouse microwave, and annoying the hell out of people with the dolphin toy, I never really played with Barbie. So, considering I'm not the target audience, I'm going to approach this from the angle of whether I would take my hypothetical daughter to see this or not. The movie begins with a reference to 2001: A Space Odyssey, which I'm sure the kids will just love. We see a bunch of little girls playing with dolls who, once they've seen the monolithic Barbie, smash their baby dolls in response. This is already a great start to the film, as it shows the movement from women wanting to be mothers to women wanting to be vapid, fashion-obsessed divas. If you think the conclusion of this movie is going to be wholesome in any way, then you're about to be sorely mistaken. In true student short film fashion, the story kicks off with Barbara Millicent Roberts waking up. From the get-go, it's clear that the production designers deserve an award. Barbieland's colors make it pretty hard to look at, but it's the materials that really make it work, from the plastic props to even the types of fabrics used for things like blankets or upholstery. As Barbie starts her day, the narrator tells us that true equality has been achieved in Barbieland. However, we soon learn that this is not the case, as the Kens in Barbieland have no discernible purpose and are quickly dismissed when speaking to any of the Barbies. Beach Ken, played to perfection by Ryan Gosling, is having a feud with Tourist Ken, played by known pedophile Simu Liu. Various Kens take a side in the matter until Beach Ken becomes injured trying to ride a plastic wave. Barbie then holds a house party where all the Barbies seem to get along, except with Midge, a pregnant Barbie whom the others frequently mistreat. Because motherhood is just weird and gross, right? During a dance sequence, which is one of the few scenes to get a laugh out of me, Barbie starts to have thoughts about death. After briefly recovering, Barbie rudely tells Ken to go away. But joke's on her, the next day her thoughts of death become worse. She goes to see Weird Barbie, a Barbie who has become disheveled from her owner playing with her too hard. You see, it's explained that how the children play with them is reflected in Barbieland, which is why Barbie is having thoughts of death. If this is true, why aren't the Barbies' limbs constantly being detached? Why isn't anyone having their head aggressively slammed into a microwave? Why isn't Barbieland a nightmare world filled with horror? Nonetheless, Weird Barbie tells Standard Barbie that she must go to the state of Los Angeles in the country of California to find the sad child who's playing with her. This is not only an accurate reflection of how Californians see themselves, but it's also a great idea. The United States would be a lot more united if one state full of whack jobs in an echo tunnel didn't control the nation's media. Anyway, through a series of vehicles, Barbie travels to the real world with Ken as a stowaway. She's upset that he came along and doesn't allow him to ride shotgun. Arriving at the garbage-filled Venice beach, Barbie and Ken rollerblade in brightly colored outfits, to the disgust of passers-by. I hardly think the duo would have looked too strange for LA, and in more polite parts of the US, they probably would have even been told they looked fabulous by many. Regardless, the jeers begin and a man slaps Barbie's ass. In public. In broad daylight. Sexual harassment is more like being cornered by the wrong coworker in the empty break room. People who work in Hollywood, of all people, should know that the mistreatment of women mostly happens behind closed doors. The scene ends with a weird quip about how Barbie and Ken don't have genitals, even though it's established earlier that the Barbies have no concept of sexual activity or human biology. After an encounter with some unprofessional police officers, Barbie begins to treat Ken like a child again, so Barbie and Ken separate. Ken goes for a montage walk and discovers a world where men are friends with each other. He sees bros fist-bumping on the street, a gym where men are encouraging each other, and many images of Rocky for some reason. I know this is supposed to be a scathing satire on stereotypical masculinity, but it actually comes off as a showcase of just how cool brotherhood is. Over at the police station, Barbie is sitting at a bus stop, crying and watching children play. I'm not sure what that's supposed to mean, but because she is somehow linked to the one who is playing with her, Barbie receives a vision of the high school where the child is. Barbie and Ken warp to the high school where they find that Sasha is a huge brat who is encouraged to roast Barbie by her lunch table cronies. Barbie leaves distraught, saying that the Barbie brand has not had a positive impact on girls as intended. Outside of the school, Barbie is picked up by Mattel employees who take her to Mattel headquarters. Sasha's mother, Gloria, a Mattel secretary who is seen drawing pictures of Barbie having an existential crisis, spots Barbie being taken away. I'm not sure why Gloria is picking up Sasha at lunchtime, but the plot needs to happen, so let's speed on. Ken finds books on the patriarchy in the school library and goes to find a job so he can take advantage of this new information. Due to his lack of experience or credentials, Ken gets turned down by men and women alike, so he decides to return to Barbie Land to share his findings with the other Kens. Meanwhile, at Mattel HQ, the CEO of Mattel says they can fix her problems if she is repackaged, as she can return to Barbie Land and be purchased by a new child. For some reason, Barbie suddenly doesn't want to do the things she came to do and escapes the office. She has an inexplicable scene where she drinks tea with an old woman, and then she's picked up by Gloria in her car. There's a boring car chase and a weird line that claims teenage girls don't take out anger on their father, and then despite Gloria and Sasha being at odds with each other, they skate across Venice Beach with Barbie to enter Barbie Land. Once they arrive, they discover that the Kens have taken over the dream houses, and the Barbies have happily become servants of the Kens in no time at all. Is a child controlling Ken to do this? How much autonomy do the Barbies have anyway? Well, I'm just going to ignore that. The important thing is the Kens are finally united, and seem to be enjoying some level of respect. With Ken telling everyone how a woman in the real world asked him what time it is. Instead of being compassionate and using this opportunity to foster equal partnerships between Barbies and Kens, Standard Barbie accepts defeat and flops on the ground. Gloria and Sasha meet with Weird Barbie and some other misfit Barbies, still not including Midge. Gloria confesses that it was herself, not Sasha, who is sadly playing with Barbie and caused her to unravel. This is supposed to be a big reveal to the audience, but they showed us the existential drawings in Gloria's first scene, so I don't know how anyone could be surprised. Also, if Standard Barbie was actually being played with by Gloria, then why did Barbie have visions of Sasha and her high school? Barbie, still lying on the floor, bemoans being a woman, declaring, "You're either brainwashed or ugly and weird," which is not at all insulting to all the women who do not share the opinions and values of Greta Gerwig. Gloria tries to pep talk Barbie by delivering an unhinged rant about what it means to be a woman. The rant comes off as impudent and vain, stating identity presentation problems that are universally human, rather than exclusively female. This is easily the worst and cringiest part of the movie. But they try to top it in the next set of scenes where Gloria unbrainwashes the Barbies by abducting them in Weird Barbie's van and telling them depressing propaganda. They distract the Kens by asking for help with various tasks, which the Kens can't help but oblige. This is framed as annoying, but the Kens are acting genuinely kind and helping without being condescending. The next stage of the plan is worse, though. The Barbies play on their jealousy by pulling out their phones and texting other Kens, causing the Kens to be at odds once again and planning a big beach fight. This part just hit too close to home. There was something really stomach-churning about a kids' movie encouraging the most petty and passive-aggressive behavior in women. Next, Ken sings a show-stopping musical number about his self-worth and the lack of respect he receives in Barbieland. Yet again, they try to frame this as another meathead moment for Ken, but it just sounds like an anthem for any man who's been hurt by a feminist. I'm sure this song will be very popular in the Chad and Sigma communities for years to come. Finally, the Kens fight it out and then realize that they missed their time to vote on changing the Barbieland Constitution to a patriarchy. Because that's how the American government works. Sure. The Kens are forever at odds again and are denied seats on the Barbieland Senate. President Barbie tells them that someday they will get some lowly judge duties, and the narrator states that it would be many years until the Kens would have the level of power that women do in the real world. Except in the real world, more than a fourth of Congress are women. Almost half of the state governors are women. A fourth of the House of Representatives are women, not even counting a whole bunch of non-voting delegates. A third of the Senate are women. The vice president is a woman, and that's not even mentioning the loads of women we have in charge on a local level. So any implication that women are not in a significant percentage of power in the U.S. is not only objectively wrong, but a great disservice to those women's great achievements. Before the beach battle, Barbie expresses to Gloria that she doesn't know why Ken is upset, and is afraid that he no longer likes her. Gloria insists that Ken likes her and that he'll come through in the end. Now that both women have refused to acknowledge Barbie's poor treatment of Ken, and the beach battle is over, Barbie goes to talk to Ken. She doesn't really apologize or help him find out who he is. She just switches some words around, and then Ken's screen time is over. He gets no resolution at all, and for all we know, he will continue to be emotionally abused by the Barbies for the rest of time. Barbie, however, is too concerned with her own personal journey, and complains that she's just stereotypical Barbie. She's not an astronaut, a doctor, the president, etc. Except, I thought that was the point of the standard Barbie. She can be anything you want her to be, and the child projects their hopes and dreams onto the doll. This is a result of weak identity politics, where a character or object has to be a very specific thing in order for you to identify with it. That's not how humans operate, and this shows a lack of very basic understanding of the Barbie brand and why it worked. I don't think the filmmakers wanted to make a Barbie movie. They just wanted to complain. This film is yet another case of a vapid Hollywood director using a major franchise as a mouthpiece for their petty squabbles. Speaking of things that don't work, all other plot threads are lazily resolved. The Mattel employees just kind of arbitrarily go back home, not without taking one last swing at Midge, of course. Gloria and Sasha make up and are nice to each other for no reason. The old lady from Mattel HQ shows up and reveals herself as the ghost of Ruth Handler, the creator of Barbie. She tells Barbie that she is named after her daughter, Barbara, and completely fails to mention that Ken is named after her son. Ruth and Barbie step into an empty void and discuss Barbie's purpose. Barbie blubbers with confused emotion, and Ruth responds with things that don't make sense. The scene very much feels like it was written by a teenager who doesn't know how to express themselves, so their emotion barfs out onto their art with no sense of order. The scene desperately tries to be touching, but Greta Gerwig is the only one who knows what it really means. Ironically, just like with the ending of 2001: A Space Odyssey, many will project their own meaning onto the ending, and therefore dupe themselves into thinking it's something profound. In the end, Barbie chooses to become human. I don't know how the ghost of Ruth Handler has the power to grant this, but it happens, and we see Barbie wearing beige and going to the gynecologist. Because rejecting healthy relationships, having a career, and going to the gynecologist is what it really means to be a happy, fulfilled woman. The end. So, would I take my hypothetical daughter to see this film? Absolutely not. Instead of showing the genders uniting, the conclusion of the movie is that the world will always be stacked against women, so you might as well just treat men like the villains they are and do whatever you want. This movie is just dripping with hatred towards men. At the beginning of the movie, I thought the Kens were a social satire on how women are treated in the real world. But in the end, their point was that all men are dumb and deserve to be second-class citizens. The film doesn't just insult men, but it drags the majority of women as well. It tells the audience multiple times that being a mother is not worthwhile enough for a woman, and that you would be more fulfilled working as a cog in the corporate machine. The thing is, most women choose to be mothers. It's the reason people think there's a gender pay gap, because statistically, women don't work as long on average. Greta Gerwig is convinced that she is the ultimate woman, and everyone should think like her. Otherwise, you're brainwashed. I don't appreciate being morally preached at by a woman who has been so salacious in previous films that she could be considered a glorified porn star. Barbie herself is not allowed to be inspiring until she becomes a whiny, complicated human who goes to the gynecologist. She doesn't even really have a discernible personality, and if it wasn't for Margot Robbie's acting, the character would be unbearable to watch. The other reason I wouldn't take my hypothetical daughter is because this movie is just really not for kids. It's filled with dirty jokes, even though the Barbies have no concept of sex. The movie is too long and drags on, especially in the third act. And it's filled with music full of language a child should not hear, made by music artists that no child should know about. I mean, Sam Smith? Really? In short, this film is just a confused mess of ideas that will inevitably create a whole new generation of insufferable, screwed-up little monsters. Whew. Well, that was, really a movie that happened. Take a break. Hydrate up, viewers. I haven't seen an eyesore that big since Lizzo tramped on stage for an award show and claimed that she's oppressed. Okay, let's talk Oppenheimer. A historical drama about J. Robert Oppenheimer has been a long time coming. The project just needed someone with the balls to broach the subject. Christopher Nolan came up to bat, and he didn't miss. For once, I think Nolan's famous non-linear storytelling actually improved the pace of this film. Cutting between Oppenheimer's security hearing, the building of the bomb in Los Alamos, and Straw's confirmation hearing meant that there was always something of intrigue to keep you hooked during dull but important talking scenes that may have bored the audience if placed chronologically. I will admit there was some excess, like some unnecessary nudity in the love scenes that Nolan is famously bad at doing. But more or less, it felt like most scenes were necessary and therefore justified the runtime. As for the cast, it's a lineup that would make even Wes Anderson's eyes water. Big-time players in the world of movies show up for what feels like glorified cameos. I especially appreciate Josh Peck's turn as the detonator. Cillian Murphy predictably steals the show as Oppenheimer. Even when Nolan writes dialogue like an alien is talking, Murphy takes it like a champ and allows you to actually feel something. He always has this scary look in his eye, even before he becomes disturbed by his creation. His skinny frame and high cheekbones make him look equal parts like a man of focus and someone who could wiggle their way out of anything. His voice really makes the performance as well. He not only nails Oppenheimer's accent, but speaks at a pitch that's both uncertain and frightening. It will be a travesty if Cillian Murphy doesn't play Voldemort in HBO's Harry Potter series. Emily Blunt is another standout as Oppenheimer's wife, who's a drunk and all-around lousy mother. She plays Kitty with a kind of confidence that almost makes her likable, holding your attention just long enough to say or do something terrible. Florence Pugh also does pretty well as Oppenheimer's other love interest, but I have to say she was pretty abused by the filmmakers. There's a scene where she has to grind naked on Cillian Murphy in a room full of old men while making eye contact with Emily Blunt. I understand it's a pretty effective way to express what it feels like to have to talk about your affairs in public, but at the same time, I don't think it was strictly necessary. I mean, geez, no wonder she's been having mental health problems lately. The other cast member I'd like to mention is Robert Downey Jr. as Louis Strauss. A man embarrassed by Oppenheimer, the paranoid Strauss sets out to damage Oppenheimer's reputation, and RDJ gets many moments to shine as he explodes on his political counsel. It helped greatly that his scene partners were the very capable Scott Grimes and Alden Ehrenreich. The main thing I want to encourage you to do, though, is to see Oppenheimer in theaters specifically. It's more than worth it to see the A-bomb test on the big screen, especially since it was done with mostly practical effects. Besides that, the whole film just looks stunning. You may not be able to trust Nolan to have the most personable characters, but you can bet that he'll get up and close to Cillian Murphy's face so that you can see every line and wrinkle of misery and regret. Overall, Oppenheimer is an excellent study of the people that had to make some of the toughest decisions in American history and the brilliant mind that was exploited in order to win the war.